So before obviously starting to talk about finance transformation and what I will be talking about, basically, I will introduce you myself slightly, a tiny bit. As a lot of you here, obviously, I started my career in two of the big four, KPMG and Deloitte, and then obviously in Italy. And then obviously I decided to move to the UK, where basically I've been working for the last, I would say, 8 years, roughly. A year more, a year less, to be honest. So I'm kind of like a UK adopted worker, basically. And yeah, the funny part on that, actually, since I'm in the UK, I've always been working with the Italian companies within the UK, operating also in the UK. The group are very, some of them are very big and very well known. Some of other ones slightly less known, but still quite well known in Italy and quite big in terms of like turnover. I mean, my experience was with Ferrero. Obviously, everyone knows chocolate company, confectionery, big company. When I was working there, it was around 12 billion of euro. Obviously, you can see that they've been through so many acquisitions across the last 2-3 years. So I don't know what's going to be their turnover size at the moment. Then I've been working with a company called Giovanni Rana. Giovanni Rana is like working in the pasta business, pretty much. They will be nearly close to 1 billion of euro worldwide. They are operating in pretty much like all the countries with the subsidiaries of just like basically with a commercial presence over there. And then last but not least, I would say I'm currently working for a company called Marcolin, which is still an Italian company, and working in the eyewear industries. So in terms of ownership, 2 of them are family business. Owned, and one is based on is owned by a private equity firm, basically. So different shape and obviously different ownership that can obviously impacting the way that the business is run and the way decisions are made, and also they are also impacting the company culture as well. So yes, let's start with the finance department as a back office function. When I think about that, sometimes I remember, the little Britain, employee behind the laptop saying, basically, the computer says no, basically. And it's like an extreme of that, but in a sort of ways, I've been experiencing in my career a situation where actually the finance department was just a support function. I would say it's like a 007 agent that if everything runs smoothly, no one knows even the finance is there. If there are a problem, obviously the people to blame, I would say. So I don't know, reporting not done correctly or properly, month-end not arriving on time, or I don't know, invoicing ADI problem and stuff like that, basically. This is obviously not the way that finance should be seen as, and also I would say it's not the right way that for finance to be seen in the business, and it's not the right way that for finance to actually create the value for the company itself. The problem is with this sort of finance is basically that there was no involvement in strategic decision, in business decision. In which way, basically, the company was making commercial decision, promo decision, marketing investment decision without actually involving the finance department. And this is obviously something that nowadays is not acceptable. It cannot be I would say understandable and tolerable, to be honest. The other point as well, I think even though finance was responsible for the reporting activities and so on, obviously reporting is an activity that is basically can be kind of like a sort of a cold blood, basically. If you don't give insight on actually what the data means and actually what the performances are, it's kind of like sometimes the reporting is meaningless itself, to be honest. So it's really important for me for you to understand what are the 3 essential pillars for a finance transformation, and also actually why suddenly companies decide to change the finance department or act, basically putting in place a finance transformation. I mean, what I noticed from personal experience, it's, I said it happens that companies usually start to think about finance transformation when the old way of doing business doesn't work anymore. The old way of doing business is basically, I need to deliver a certain EBITDA. The group is happy with that. I will make sure that I will deliver the EBITDA. then doesn't matter how actually the results is matched or is like achieved. It's just a matter of a number, which obviously in the modern world cannot be considered acceptable, I would say. And also because again, crises happen. Tomorrow morning something happened. Suddenly, my way or the way of like managing the business doesn't work anymore. And therefore, obviously, if a company doesn't have the right finance structure, or doesn't have the right structure in place, obviously, it's not capable of, I would say, overturn, and understand actually how to basically like moving from a crisis situation to a potential advanced situation or advanced situation. So to basically like, I would say moving out from risking the business to actually like acquiring potentially and opening new opportunities to grow, pretty much. And the other situation that it happened in my experience, actually, because company grows significantly. I was working for a company that was growing 20% year on year. And therefore, when you put this sort of growth in place, then you realize that, the old Excel, or I would say the old way of like throwing numbers or speaking to the headquarters and say, what's the marginality of this, what's the cost of that, when I can expect some certain product to come to the UK or stuff like that, they don't work anymore. So you need actually to put something in place. And again, another point as well of that is actually the change of top management. When the top management change, obviously, everyone is trying to bring something new. And obviously, when you change the top management means that what was done before was good, but not good enough to move to the next step. So therefore, new people actually brings you an idea, new way, new concept, new way of seeing the business. And that's actually where, the three essential pillars are coming into. The first one is finance system, business analytics. We can talk about finance transformation, whatever we want, for how much time we want. But if we don't have actually finance systems, as obviously a lot of you said before, we cannot go anywhere. And this is the first pillar, it's the most important one. And actually, I would say it's quite expensive as well, because we don't need to think about only actually buying, buying the services, but it's a matter of implementing the finance system within the organization. And obviously, with that, there are like, I would say sort of like, company costs where people basically, they were running their job 9 to 5, I would say. And they were happy to do their, they're working on their schedule. Something changed. And on top of their job, they need to actually be dedicating, part of their time in actually like mapping out processes and understanding how actually, a reporting system of like a finance system could actually work with the way that the company actually operates. And this is a very long and very expensive, very time consuming. And a lot of time you find resistance from people. People don't like to change. And this is obviously like something that obviously can block, can stop, or can delay your the implementation of a finance system. The second point, actually not second in terms of importance, is actually the fact that to run a business transformation, you need actually leaders that are actually able to guide the business transformation. People that understand what does it means. People that actually has a clear view of actually where we are at, where we want to be, and which step we need to do on the way. And again, it's not like a one-man show. It's always been like that. It's not a one-man show. Even people think that it's a one-man show. Is not, because you need to basically to operate and put in place a finance transformation. You need actually talent. You need people. You need the people in your team, in the finance team. These people need to be actually, they are really difficult to find. And they are really difficult to find. Also, have some sort of like different behavior, character, and characteristics. There are people that are not happy to sit behind the screen, behind the laptop, and doing their job 9 to 5, being basically not interactive at all. You need the people that have business acumen. They are actually like proactive, which is really one of the characteristics that I think is very keen if you want to build like a strong finance team. And again, it's a matter as well about culture, because I'm Italian. I've been working in the UK for 8 years, but I can see that there are differences in the way that Italian people see finance people and the way that finance people are perceived in the UK. What I mean by that, if you don't think that finance can give you the right value, you're not going to pay them the right amount of money. So therefore, obviously, if you want to hire and actually like keep the right talent in place, you need to actually give them the right package, give them the right expectation bringing them on board, telling the truth, what they're gonna do for this company, what you want them to do, and actually if the company is culturally prepared to allow them to do what they are paid to do. And this is like something that I would say in some sort of experience I found was like easy written on a piece of paper, but then when it's a matter actually to action, yeah, well, there were a lot of discrepancies. So obviously, in that specific matter, the CFO or the leader that is actually, I would say, like bringing on transformation has a key role in make the business understanding and empower the people to make sure they're actually able to do their job in the way actually you hire them. The third but not least, actually, it's focusing on area where finance create value. It's written over there. It's actually true, because if you obviously, we were saying before, it's most of the time, a lot of companies go through finance transformation, implement new system or whatever, but without actually understanding where actually finance create value and in which way finance can create value, you're just gonna invest money, you're gonna spend the money, you're gonna waste a lot of time of the people in the organization, and therefore you're gonna actually lose the momentum and the strengths you might have in actually implementing, a finance transformation. So when in the question like where finance can create value, finance can create value everywhere for every department, and even if it's a support function in a lot of ways, actually can drive the business or can co-drive the business, and this is where it's coming from, like this finance transformation journey. Obviously, it doesn't have to be seen as like a step from basics to strategy. I think it's about having the right mix of people within your finance team. You need people that they are accountants, so they do actually the basics, I would say. So they need to obviously do accounting, double entries, making reporting correct and on time, and communicate to the headquarters where basically, everything has been done from a subsidiary perspective. And you need these people, because without these people, you cannot actually build on top of them. Then obviously, I was talking about the finance business part, which is actually the most critical, I would say, the most difficult, I would say, rule to fulfill in a lot of ways. Because against you, they are in the middle between an accountant and potentially the CFO that is at the working at strategic level. The finance business partner actually is like an analytical person, so you actually need the business acumen from them. It's a person that actually understands the way you make the business, because without that, there is no way you can actually influence decision, you can understand where you're working at, in which way you can actually help the organization in perceive and do what they need to do, basically. Understanding also, product, customers, trade condition. So mapping out pretty much the way the company operates in the market. And without that, unfortunately, you will not be able to be a business partner or to actually be influential. So again and again here, use management tools. The usage of management tools is quite important, because without that, obviously, your analytical skills are quite low and actually quite consuming. So you will spend actually more time to bring data together rather than actually analyzing the data. And this is something very common in a lot of companies, but it's something that, companies especially like in fast-moving consumer goods, where, there are trading conditions, there are like customer coming with new proposal, there are like tender going on. You don't have the time to do that. It's pretty much like impossible. And you cannot basically delay your decision because you don't have the data ready to be analyzed and to be actually like discussed, because the customer is not waiting for you. So there are two things: you either don't make a decision at all and you lose opportunities, you lose the customer, or either you make decision but they're not the right one. So potentially you either go when you think you go with a certain price or certain strategy without actually understanding how much money you make. What's your gross margin on that? What's your contribution margin on that? How much money, at BU level you make? How much money at a group level you make? And without that, unfortunately, especially with the tough market out there, you cannot afford that. Because we are talking about FMCG, where actually the margin are in the region of 25-30% in terms of like 35 if you're lucky, in terms of contribution margin. And then obviously you need to pay overheads, basically like personnel costs, overheads, offices, travel expenses, and therefore obviously your margins will get very tiny. So if you don't get the top line right, then you are setting up to fail in the long term. We are talking about the business part also as sort of business intelligence influencing. Yeah, it's correct, because the business insights are important, and in which way are important, for instance. I'm just giving you an example over there. A sales guy is coming to the finance business partner and basically says, look, this is basically my volume. This is my base volume. This is my provo volume. I will need to set up a price for a certain product with customer, basically. And this is what I think I will be doing in terms of volume. Therefore, that's what I'm gonna bring on in terms of gross sales, and that's gonna be the promo investment I will put in place. Then obviously, when you talk about insight, the finance business partner should know, actually seeing the data, speaking with the sales manager or national account manager, and actually understanding and helping him out to say, look, last year with a similar launch or a similar product, you didn't do even close to that volume you're actually putting over there. Or, the promo investment you are telling me 40% actually was 65% or 70%. So giving the insight to the salesperson, allow him actually to better reshape his proposal, and therefore, the finance function is more willing to actually accept this proposal and actually speed up the process from actually the creation to actually to the final approval, I would say. And again, influence, because all the departments works in a different way. What I mean by that, if I'm talking with that sales guy, he's talking about UBW, promo uplift, and stuff like that. If you're talking with a category, they're all about penetration, market share, market value, the way that actually consumer behave, like the frequency, the microeconomics, like inflation and so on. And obviously there is also logistic, which is all about inventory management, delivery on time, and stuff like that. And then obviously there is like the strategy side, which personally I think is basically like should be done through the CFO. But obviously the CFO, without having the people before, and actually without having the people that are actually on top of the activities that should be actually performed, is not capable of actually working on strategy and then actually impacting the business, how it should impact the business. I'm writing there strategic thinking, future financial sustainability. Yeah, that's true, because when the company is asking, can you please also not working on the budget, but working on 3 years or 5 years plan. If you are not a strategic thinker, or you don't think about the financial sustainability long time, you're not going to be able to see the long picture. What I mean by that, I've been working in a company where, on 30 million pounds, we were spending pretty much 6.5 million in promo. And the promo was really deep, was like 60, 70%, actually like 60% cutting in versus the base price. And obviously, what does it mean? That it's like, even at the moment I'm actually doing my volume, I'm making actually my EBITDA. But in the long run, what's going to happen to me? I'm creating value for the customer, for the big customer. I'm creating value for myself. Or each year, because obviously the competition is getting tough, and because I'm actually not inputting anything in the market, we actually basically cutting my legs shorter and shorter and shorter until a certain point, basically, I will not going to deliver value for the customer and not delivering value for myself, and therefore I will be actually cut out of the market. Influence decision making, yeah, that's another big point, because you can influence the business by deciding like which way financially you should actually launch a new product, or as well which amount of money you actually will be put in place to actually launch a new product and so on. And again, it's about co-drive company performances. I write in co-drive because at the end of the day, finance is supporting the business, is helping the business, is thinking strategically about where the business is to go. But I'm not a one-man show again. So therefore, the managing director needs to be involved, the top management needs to be involved, the headquarters needs to be involved, and all the players, the top players of the management team needs to be on the same path to actually drive the company. So this is where actually to get to that level, there are some sort of steps that needs to be followed. And I think one of the sentences I like the most is actually, sometimes the best thing you learn in a company is not necessarily what they do best, but sometimes what they don't do. This is actually like where actually, people like me get inspired by. You go in a company, you don't know actually you are more excited for actually what doesn't work than actually what works. Because that means that you can actually put your hands on and actually changing drastically the sort of like a company, in the way they operate, in their marginality, in the strategic thinking, or in the way they actually can achieve revenue or profit in the long term. One of the most important things, and actually one of the first things you should do is actually building relationship. Why building relationship? Because obviously you go into an organization, you need to understand actually, who is the managing director, who is the top management, actually what they want from you, and actually what actually were the missing concept, where you are actually trying to, which gap there are that you are trying to fulfill, which kind of business requirement, which needs the business have that have not been fulfilled in the past. And this is very important because basically that's where you set up your, I would say, your status, I would say in a certain ways. You actually make them understand that you are actually there to help. This is important as well because, I've been working in big group, but a subsidiary level. So therefore there's always the HQ and the subsidiary. Most of the time the CFO is not actually hired locally, so by choice of the managing director, but actually by the headquarter and the group. And therefore, sometimes there could be this alignment between what the group wants and the timing that the group wants stuff, and actually what locally the team wants or what they are preparing to achieve. So therefore, being not seen as like the policeman, actually being seen someone as like brought in to actually help the company and help the top team and the managing director to deliver actually the scope of what they are actually supposed to do, it's very important. And again, based on the discussion, actually, it's also important to understand to gain trust, you need to think about which quick win you can make, and actually which are like the quick win and the long win you will actually be able to make. And the other point as well is like making sure you deliver what you promised, because without that, unfortunately, you are failing even before starting. This is another big point. Understand the business, the organization. It's key to be a finance business partner. You need to understand the business model. How you make your revenue, how you make your turnover, how you make your net sales, and how you make your EBITDA at the end of the day. And this is going through basically analyzing each line of the P&L, understanding which are the key drivers. If you are basically a commercial entity, it's all about top line, volume, net revenue, commercial cost, investment through obviously the retailers. And then obviously logistic costs as well. Then all about cost, COGS, they're all like I would say under the control of the group. So it's kind of like taken, I would say. And if you have this sort of things in mind, you are better off. Again, it's a matter of like understanding what the group strategy is and what actually the subsidiary strategy is. For instance, the group wants to launch 5 new products in new 5 like categories within the next 3 years. Is it actually the subsidiary locally ready to do that? Not always. So therefore, basically understanding the differences and understanding actually which one are the driver of the P&L will actually allow you to start and be in the journey of becoming finance business partner. And again, we are talking about business acumen. The people that are working as a finance business partner actually are not normal people. Are people that actually, are curious and interested about, competitor, products, how the market goes, reading about, for instance, a newspaper like The Grocer, basically, which is telling you all about new things coming on or whatever. Understanding the competitor, reading about them, and also, again, spending a lot of time with actually the other department. Because as I said before, every department has its own metrics. Without you understanding that, you're not going to be able to actually collate and actually making sure that the finance speak the finance language, but actually related to the language of the other department. And again, here are I would say, tips to achieve that. As I said before, draw the business model and key drivers. Talk about strategy. So, meeting people from other departments, thinking about which strategies do we have? Is it the right one? But not in under a finance way, but really open and I would say informal way, I would say. Then obviously, having business conversation, understanding, the problem or the point of view of different departments. For instance, for a marketing person, it doesn't matter how much, I would say if you invest, 10% or 15% or the 20-25%. Because at the end of the day, what they care about is actually, making sure they've got enough budget to deliver the message across. But then it's for you to understand also, I can deliver the message across, but actually potentially optimizing the investment or maybe deciding to invest in a different time or in a different way. Conduct field visit, that's important because when I'm talking about promotional discount or commercial cost, people need to know in the finance department what does it mean gondola end, what does it mean plinths 1, 2, or 3, what does it mean basically have like entry gates or not entry gates, because all these characteristics actually impact your volume and impact your sales, and therefore actually understand why the company invests money and potentially drive down, instead of investing, I don't know, 25% or 30% of the gross sales in promo, actually prefer to invest more in activation in store. And reason. Again, I was listening before, we are talking about cross-functional project as well. It's important because obviously when you work in cross-functional project, actually you became more of a lean organization. So straight away from the preparation of the idea to actually the implementation of the idea, the time is very quick, it's very short. And actually you are able to fulfill which are the market requirements in a really short way. And again, it's about training the organization. Yeah, the organization needs to be understand that basically there are processes, there are steps. I've been always trained by my bosses in the past, and always training the finance function and the business in the way that no numbers go out of the business without the approval of finance. No numbers. Because if you don't control what actually goes out, you're not actually to be able to understand if what actually has been decided is actually implemented. Again, another important point is actually improving reporting and performances tool. In a company, actually, I went there and there were no reporting system, so actually I had to implement a GEDIC over there. And again, it was a painful and really time-consuming, I would say, activities, but it has to be done. Because without a GEDIC, you cannot afford to run a business just by having like SAP or, I don't know, GD Edwards or whatever, without having a managerial tool and a reporting system. So that's what I have to do basically. And again, it's not only a matter of implementing this system. It's a matter of like personalizing and customizing, because they are like fantastic instruments. But if we don't actually, usually in an organization, like only the 10, 15%, 20% of the potential of the system actually used, because people don't have the money to actually implement more, discover new model, paying a consultant to actually add the new tools to the main system. And this is important because this is the only way that actually you can actually oversee, you can be efficient in terms of timing, responsive, giving the business the right answer in the right time. And I would say also, making sure that the report you send out are actually user-friendly, which is one of the most important things. Because if you send a report out and no one understands what you are sending out, it's basically a report like another. It's like I would say, maybe it's too strong, a toilet paper a bit, but it is what it is. This is just like a few examples. I don't want to teach anyone about way of implementing or like coming out with new template. This is like basically was designed to support sales department. Why? Because the sales department works only in cases, while obviously the headquarter wants to know kilo, wants to know consumer unit, wants to know other metrics. But the sales guy is always and only talks about cases. So how you can actually make sure that the sales guy from cases actually understand which kind of profitability or marginality you bring home. And especially, and again, it's a matter of like, I've been working in companies which are actually part of a big group. So therefore you got two different levels of marginality. One, a business unit level, another one, a group level. And again, because there are transfer price policies in place, it's important to understand, even sometimes I don't make, the sentence, I don't make money in the UK, why should I launch this product? Because the group makes money anyway. So as soon as like we reach some sort of like stage target in terms of contribution margin, we can launch the product. Or if you are basically in the first example, actually we are launching different product basically, I can actually, I would say, not paying attention to the marginality of one each singular product, but will be actually important to understand within the launch, within the mix, if I'm actually reaching the target that the group is actually supposing to reach for their specific product. And also again, because we are working in an economy where actually there's cross-selling between different countries. So if you don't actually make sure that the policy you put in place is actually the same, or pretty much basically you look after the marginality across all the countries you are operating in, then you allow like big retailers to basically like buying in a country and selling in another country. This is what you don't want, I would say. This is another example how basically finance helped the category, I would say marketing. This is like promo value percentage, and on top basically is like based on the premium value percentage, how actually, you know, your value share per category actually decrease or increase. And that's a very useful tool, I would say, which again is in conjunction with between finance, category, and marketing. So again, where finance can add value, everywhere. This one are other two examples. The tool on the left side actually was designed for logistic. Obviously, forget the data inside. For privacy reason, obviously, I was not able to share the real data, I would say. But you know, this is what it's all about. Especially, you know, when you work in a chilled industry where, you know, the shelf life is very short, inventory is key, and also you receive product not product in the UK but from another country. So actually, you know, working on week A for week C, week A for week D, and whatever is really important. And again, you need to make sure that obviously you got enough stock to serve obviously your customer, and also understanding when you serve the stock to the customer, if you can sell them at full price or not, based on your shelf life that is remaining on the stock, I would say. And especially like in a period like COVID, where basically every sort of company experienced like big spike or big decreases, if you don't actually like manage your logistics department in the right way with the right tools, well, then you are in a big trouble. Especially when you have inventory like of the value of 35, 40 million of pounds. So therefore, like if you don't look after that, at least the logistics department, rather than only focusing on the operational side, and on, I would say, service level, they don't see the statistics. Actually, you don't help them understand what actually needs to be done, how they are tracking in managing the logistic. Or again, you know, this is about basically data, what happened. The other situation where actually I'm seeing like a big jump in cases sold, basically, with like the big Red Cross COVID impact, and you know the other like basically the other spike in green. So marketing, obviously, you put investment in place in marketing, and suddenly you say, hang on a minute, because I invest in a TV campaign, basically, I was able to basically get an uplift of like, you know, if my base rate was, I don't know, 7, 8 UBW, I was actually able to reach from 7, 8 to 16. And thanks to marketing. Then actually, you are speaking with marketing, say, actually, hang on a minute. I think the spike you see over there is mostly because of COVID. The spike you see in green over there is because of your, basically the advertising campaign we put in place. So actually, again, it's a matter of like information, why it happened. The first spike, it happened because of COVID. The second one happened because, you know, we spend the money on advertising, and because obviously people were at home, they were buying more of your products. So actually, it worked. The last, I would say, the last dashboard is like quite like a common one coming from Tagetic, which is basically like marginality, sales versus last year, with some sort of like circle indicators, I would say, and some sort of like, you know, sales data. It's something that is very easy to, I would say, to implement and to achieve with the use of Tagetic. So therefore, I mean, there's customization over there, but in Tagetic as a reporting system, as managerial tool, is very powerful. So pretty much easy to implement. And obviously, when you improve reporting and performances tool, obviously, you know, the business start to appreciate that, start to involve in decision making, start to actually say, do you know what, actually, finance is giving me like help in basically giving me the data that I need to have in order to potentially like, I would say like draft or draw like a strategic decision I need to make, or, you know, could be a price, could be like a launch of a new product or whatever. All the department actually understand, they actually have the support of the data from finance, and therefore basically their life is becoming easier. And therefore, because their life is becoming easier, actually you are more inclined, and actually you would be more likely to be invited in the meeting that actually make the difference. You know, in the performance meeting, in the weekly meeting, in the leadership meeting, because actually, you know, I was sitting in a meeting at the beginning of my experience, and we are talking about, so we want to propose some sort of condition to this customer. How we were selling like last year? Let me check, I don't know, I'm not sure about that. Let me find out. And therefore, basically, you lose the immediate of like making potential decision, understand also when you sit. But when you actually have the answer straightforward, you know, the managing director, the other department actually, you know, can actually start the discussion, and potentially within like 1 hour, 2 hours of the meeting, you actually make a decision and go to a customer with a proposal and a plan, I would say. Again, influence decision making. in the finance transformation journey, I would say, if you actually like work towards the right path and making sure that obviously all the right steps are following, I would say, and you are on point business-wise, so you understand the business, you actually, the top manager understand the value you can actually add within the business. It's actually more easy to, I would say, to operate and to actually transform the business and the finance function from a merely accounting to actually, I would say, a strong finance business partnering. And you became part of the decision. You became part of the business process. You became part of the company. So there will be moments where you are in the 6 months review, in the 3 months review, and the business is waiting for you to talk and actually say, what can we do this? How can we do that? Giving reassurance that what actually is in place is actually working and will be working in the future. And actually is like financially sustainable and reliable, so they can actually like sleep well and potentially give it to the business owner the right indication about direction that UK as a country is actually bringing on or is on, I would say. And this being basically influential and giving insight is such a difficult I would say like activity. I would say, because I had unfortunately the situation where the business was going like literally down big time. So you were not creating value for the customer, you were not creating value for the business itself. You got the list from the customer, you were losing sales, you were actually not be able to sometimes even covering the fixed costs. And therefore is the time where you say you need to prepare the business to basically say, look, for the next year and a half, basically forget about EBITDA, forget about profitability. My year 3 you will have profitability. And no one else in the business is actually have the skills and the chance of honestly and directly speaking with the business owner or the top manager, giving them the right picture actually what should be and what will happen. Again, it's a matter also like, as I was saying before, you can actually share number with the organization. You can actually, giving all the insight you want. But when you're in a meeting of 30 minutes, 40 minutes with the HQ, with the business owner, or with, I don't know, the top manager, it's all a matter of like making them understand instead of way how the business is going. That's like a really simple, straightforward, EBITDA graph. So basically, you're starting from the budget, main driver, few explanation, where was your EBITDA budget, what you're going to actually achieve. That was true, actually. So we did a good year that year. And this is actually giving a real picture and a straight immediate picture of actually how the business is going, which actually metrics are important, which are the key drivers to achieving that EBITDA. On the left side here, you just got key indicator, which basically is telling you what's the percentage of the major brand you have in your portfolio towards versus the other brand, which channel you are working on, what's the split in terms of percentage, and what actually within your proposition, I would say, how much is luxury, how much is diffusion. They're very easy to read, very easy to understand. And obviously, if someone has a further question to ask, obviously they will be able to ask in a private way or in a separate way rather than like in a big meeting with a lot of people involved. All of that to basically gain trust from the business stakeholder. It's like basically a circle. The more basically you implement it, the more you are good in implementing the first steps, the more actually it's like you will be able to, you are entitled, you are gaining trust from the business itself. So will be all, the next time will always be easier to basically to be trusted as an advisor. And the more easy will be actually to, I would say, indirectly or directly, in good or in bad, basically, I would say, influence the business performances. At the end of all this discussion, I would say, we started here talking about finance as merely accounting, reporting, I would say, function, to actually becoming a strategies. So we are talking about right mindset of the people, so you need to have like a team with the right mindset. You need to have actually processes in place that actually allow you to jump from accounting reporting to strategies. And again, because of this factor, basically, you will actually be able to, from just running reporting activity, actually to predict the business performances and actually giving the right picture of the business performances to the group itself. So yeah, pretty much that's it. Hope I was quick enough, or I was like exhaustive enough, I would say. So obviously, if there are any question, if not, you can just meet at the final in Wembley, basically. By the way, I wrote this presentation. I sent this presentation out before actually the match finished yesterday. So I was very trustworthy in the England team. So.
Okay. So who's going to win on Sunday?
I hope the best team.
The best team.
I've been political and diplomatic.
Yes.
So as a finance business partner, you need to be. You cannot say yes or no. Always depends.
I'm quite data driven. I think it'll be the one that scores the most goals.
That's
Not necessarily the same thing.
Let's see. Let's see.
Well, thank you. That was fantastic. Do we have any questions now? Yes, fantastic.
Firstly, I have to commend the Italian football team for being the most stylish and the most together of all the teams, and very much looking forward to that spectacle. But thank you very much for a very informative session. I'm interested in, I really like your tips for the business acumen and really resonate with a lot of my approach. But how do you get your team to do the same? Because I've seen a whole different level of thirst within my organisations of, it seems that unless you show by example and sort of set things up yourself, you don't always get that same level of thirst from the teams below when they're trying to change. How have you dealt with that, and how have you sort of get that drive across your teams?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say that I lead by example. So actually, I'm the first one that when I go with my girlfriend to a supermarket or whatever, or to in an optician or whatever, actually check things. Make sure, for instance, that if I'm paying for a promo, actually the promo is displayed correctly, or I don't know, if I'm paying for a gondola end, our products are in a gondola end, or if I'm basically like, I'm kind of like faking being a customer as well. So I go to an optician, for instance, and I say, can I have this Tom Ford pair of sunglasses? And basically says like, what's the price of that, to make sure that obviously they are complying with the policy and the price that should be set up in terms of what sales price. So it's a matter of like leading by example, but also it's a matter, as I said before, having the right people. And to be honest, like when I start in businesses, maybe 70-80% actually I don't have the right people at the beginning. Because obviously if the company is not managed properly and the finance way of working is not actually the finance way you want, then obviously people leave by themselves because they don't want to do the extra step or the extra mile, or they don't have the capacities to do that. So you resort to the recruitment market. Straight simple. And then obviously you are able to pick up the people that are more extroverts, more willing to talk, more open, and actually you feel that their business acumen basically.
Okay, another question.
Fantastic.
No, I'm going to ask you a question then.
Yes.
So if you think about you're taking your team on this journey,
yes.
What have you found to be, what surprised you the most, and what did you find was the most difficult element of that?
They're not really, the most difficult is actually building ready shelf packaging, or like, I would say like shelf in store. Mm-hmm. So they're quite complex sometimes. Mm. So you actually, by actually yourself trying to put like, a shelf together, you understand how not easy is the implementation of a certain activity in the point of sales. Mm. So you actually can go to the category or the customer, the customer service team to say, guys, I think the way you set up this is not actually super friendly and super straightforward. Mm. Therefore, obviously, the implementation in store, especially with this COVID and the pandemic, I don't think it's going to work. Mm. Or at least people will not basically build what you are supposed to build from day one. Mm. And that obviously means you invest in the money, you can get returns for your investment straight away. Mm.
So you really dived deep then into what was actually going on.
Yes.
Formed your own view.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a huge amount of sense. Have we got any other questions, or? I know it's the end of the day. People are probably presentation weary.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
So thank you.
See you in Wembley.
See you in Wembley. Yeah.